Today's topic of discussion, the identity map. Listen to me when you're trying to make sense of everything that you have just been through. Over the last 7 videos, we've covered a lot of ground. Identity, the gap, your environment, acting before you believe it, reverting under pressure, the daily votes, and why you can't see the change yet. And if you've watched all of them, you might be sitting with a lot of ideas that feel important but not fully connected. And that is what this video's for. In this video, I'm going to draw you the complete map and how every single video across the identity series connects into one system, one engine, and one thing that once you see it whole, makes everything that came before it land differently. But if you haven't watched the series yet, this video will still make complete sense on its own. But I would encourage you to go back and watch them in order afterwards, because each piece of this map has a full video behind it. So let's build the map. Everything in this series starts with one idea, that your identity is not who you think you are. It's who the evidence says you are. Not your intentions and not your self-image, not the story that you tell about yourself, but it's the actual accumulated evidence of what you have done, how you've responded, what you've chosen, day after day in moments both big and small. That is the foundation of the whole map. Because once you understand identity is evidence-based, not feeling-based, not declaration-based, everything else follows from it. You cannot think your way into a new identity. You can't affirm your way there. You can't wait to feel like a different person before becoming one. You build that evidence. Then the identity follows. And that is where the map starts, with you. Not as a fixed thing, but with ongoing accumulation of proof of who you are. Your identity is not who you say you are. It's what the evidence says. And the evidence, it can be changed. One decision at a time. Once you accept that identity is evidence-based, the next question is, what happens when the evidence doesn't match who you want to be? That's the identity gap. On one side, the version of you that you say you are, want to be, and believe yourself to be, that is your stated reality. But on the other side, the version of you that actually shows up in your daily actions, habits, and responses, that is the occupied reality. And most people live their entire lives in that gap without ever naming it. They feel the friction, the sense that their actions keep contradicting their goals, but they can't locate the source of it. But the gap, that is the source. And the gap, it doesn't close by wanting to close it. And it doesn't close just by understanding it either. It closes, but only one way, by generating new evidence for the new version consistently over time. Everything else in this map is about how to do that. The gap between who you say you are and how you're actually living isn't a character flaw, it's a map. And now you know what it is showing you. But here's where most people get stuck, even when they understand the gap. They do the inner work, they feel the shift, and they genuinely commit to closing it. And then they walk back into the same room, the same group chat, or the same conversations with the same people. And the old version comes back online within hours. This isn't weakness, this is physics. Your environment, it's not neutral. Every space that you inhabit and every person that you spend time with is constantly sending your nervous system a signal about who you are. If those signals still say old version, then the environment wins every single time. This is why two people can have the exact same insight, the same desire to change, the same understanding of the gap, but get completely different results. One of them changed their environment, but the other, they didn't. The environment layer sits around the gap like a force field, and you have to account for it, design around it, or it will keep pulling you back to the starting point. No matter how much inner work that you do, you will never outwill poorly designed environment. The environment, it always wins, unless you design it deliberately. So you understand the gap. You've accounted for the environment. Now you need to act, not only when it feels right, and not when you feel ready, or not once the beliefs are there. It's before all of that. And this is the part that trips almost everybody up, because it feels backwards. We're conditioned to believe that you're going to feel different first, and then you act differently as a result. But that is not the order in which it works. You act first in small, specific, and mostly unglamorous moments. Then you ask yourself, what would the version of me that I'm becoming do right now? And you do that before it feels earned. And then the belief will catch up to the evidence that you are generating. It's not immediately and not dramatically, but it does catch up. Because beliefs, they don't just update update when you decide that they should. They update once the evidence changes. And this again isn't just a fake it until you make it. There's no performance here. It's evidence gathering. Every small decision that aligns with the new version is one more data point that is telling your nervous system on who you're becoming. You do not think your way into a new identity. You act your way into one. And the belief will follow the evidence, not the other way around. So here is what happens next on the map. And this is the part that nobody warns you about. Everything is working and you're acting as the new version. The environment is much more deliberately designed, the evidence is building, and you can feel that shift happening. And then pressure hits. A stressful week, a setback, a confrontation, something that you didn't see coming. And in that moment, the old version comes roaring back and the voice says, this is who you really are. The new version was never real. But here is what that voice gets wrong. Pressure does not create who you are. Pressure reveals what has been built so far and what hasn't been tested yet. A moment of reverting is not a verdict. It's a map. It's showing you exactly what part of the identity hasn't been pressure tested yet. Not the whole identity, but a specific part of it, in a specific type of situation, under a specific type of load. And that is information. Precise, useful and actionable information. The shame spiral that follows a reversion does far more damage than the reversion itself, because shame, that writes a story about the whole, when the reality is about a specific part. So name that trigger and separate the moment from the story. Rebuild from the gap, not from scratch. And reverting under pressure isn't proving that the shift wasn't real. It's a map showing you exactly where you need to focus next. And now we zoom out from the individual moment where the pressure is not the only pattern, because here is the trap, which catches even the people that understand everything up to this point. It's just one day, one skipped session, one old habit winning, just one day of not acting as the new version. And they are right. One day on its own doesn't decide anything. But here's what that sentence is actually doing. It's not describing one day. It's describing a pattern of letting themselves off the hook, one day at a time. And every single time, the sentence is technically correct. And the reframe isn't to make every single day matter individually. It's to stop treating each day as a verdict and start treating each day as a vote. You're not trying to win every vote. You're trying to win the majority. And you don't measure the majority in days. You measure it in weeks, in trends, and in the overall direction that the evidence is accumulating. The small, automatic moments, what you do in the first 10 minutes after waking, what you reach for when you're bored, how you talk to yourself when something goes wrong, those are the votes that actually shape the total, not the big visible decisions. The small subconscious ones that happen long before the conscious ones are weighed in. Watch that trend, not the day. You are casting votes every single day, whether you notice or not. An identity is just the running total, and the total is built mostly in the moments that are too small to count. And here is the final piece of the map, the one that holds everything together. If you have been doing this work, closing the gap, designing the environment, acting as the new version, rebuilding after pressure, and casting the votes, you might be sitting still with one nagging question. So why doesn't it feel different yet? Because change isn't something you feel whilst it's happening. It's something that you will only see afterwards. And usually it is much later than expected. Think of the hour hand on the clock. You stare at it and you'll swear it's not moving. But if you look away for 3 hours and then you come back, it's clearly moved. The movement was always happening. You just can't perceive it at the resolution of right now. An identity change works in that same resolution. Day by day, the difference is almost imperceptible. The gap between Tuesday and Wednesday is tiny. It's practically unmeasurable. But if you zoom out 6 months, a year, 2 years, the person looking back at who they were is almost unrecognizable. And the proof always arrives so much later than the change itself. And the most expensive decision in this whole process is stopping just because the proof hasn't shown up yet. Don't measure it by how it feels. Measure it by how you're operating. Are you catching the gap faster than you used to? Are you noticing the environment's pull instead of being swept along by it? Are you still choosing to act as the new version even on the days it doesn't feel earned? If yes, that is the change happening. It's just running on a timeline that your feelings haven't caught up to yet. Don't ask, do I feel like I have changed? Ask, am I operating differently? The second question, it has an honest answer. And the first one, it almost never does. And that is the invisible compound. So let's now put it all together. This is the identity shift map, and it starts with you, not as a fixed thing, but as an accumulation of evidence that can be changed. The identity gap, it sits at the center. It's the distance between who you say you are and how you're actually living. Everything in this series is about closing that gap. Around it, the environment layer. This is the space that people are either supporting the shift or pulling against it, whether you've designed that environment deliberately or not. Then the action mechanism. The act first belief follows a process that generates the evidence to close the gap, one small decision at a time. Then it's the pressure test, the inevitable moment when the new identity gets tested and what the reversion is actually telling you when it happens. Then the daily vote, the long run and counting of the small automatic moments that nobody watches, but they build the total over time. And then finally, the invisible compound. The reason why it feels like nothing is working until suddenly it is very obvious. These aren't 7 separate ideas. They're 7 parts of one engine. And the engine, it has one job: to move you from the occupied reality to the stated one, to who you're becoming, from the gap to the closed version of it. That is the whole map. 7 videos, 1 system, and 1 direction. And the gap will close the same way every single time. Evidence, action, pressure, consistency, and timing. There are no shortcuts through any of those, but there's also no mystery. The map is right here. So listen to me when you're wondering if any of this is even working. You now have the full map. You now know what identity is and where it actually comes from. You know how to locate the gap. You know what's pulling against you from the outside. You know the order in which change actually happens. You know what pressure is really revealing. You know how to count the trend instead of just counting the day. And you know why you can't see the compound yet. That is not a small thing. Most people will go their whole lives without understanding one of these pieces clearly. And you now have all 7. Now the only thing left to do is the work. Not perfectly, not all at once, and not when you feel ready. Just that next small decision in the right direction for the new version of you. And then the one after that. That is how the map gets walked. One step at a time. In those moments that nobody watches, for longer than it feels like it should take. Then one day, not suddenly, but undeniably, you'll look back and realise you're standing somewhere completely different from where you first started. And the map has brought you here. So go walk it. Series 3 is on its way, and it goes one layer deeper into what this rebuilt version of you actually looks like when they step into the world and start operating from their full standard. So subscribe to the channel and that will find you when you need it. So if you found this video beneficial, make sure to leave a comment below and let me know what part was most impactful for you. My name's Harley. Do the work, trust the process, and I'll see you in the next one.